Mayor Brandon Johnson standing behind Chicago's position as a welcoming city as immigration raids continue across the United States. WGN's Sean Lewis live at City Hall with his message. Hi, Sean.
Hi there, Micah. The feds say that they have rounded up, arrested, or ordered to be detained at least 8,000 people across the United States. A small portion of those here in the Chicago area. What's not clear is the criminal background of those people. As federal immigration agents continue to arrest people in Chicago and around the country.
This desire to popularize fear is unconscionable and abhorrent.
Mayor Brandon Johnson is standing on business.
We're talking about people's lives.
In a 90-minute press conference, Johnson, joined by members of CPD, his budget team, and the city attorney, among others, reiterated Chicago's official position as a welcoming sanctuary city.
Our officers have direct information on how to respond to these things if they're called to it.
CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling says he is in contact with the feds. And while reports vary on the number of people arrested since Sunday, his sources put it at just more than 100 in Chicago.
Right now at the time and the information that we're getting from the agency. And right now the information that we're getting is that the focus is on people who have criminal convictions. What we have not seen is that we have not seen federal agents running through Chicago looking for children, going to work locations and grabbing people.
There's a real goal here to stoke fear into the American people.
It's that fear the mayor focused on. On Friday, confusion. CPS announced immigration agents came to Hamlin Elementary on the southwest side, only to walk that statement back later when the feds said it was actually the Secret Service on a different matter.
We'll continue to make sure that we're protecting the interests of all working people in the city.
What we want to do is make sure that we're protecting our people from violent criminals.
The superintendent says that includes protecting law-abiding immigrants.
There's no need to be afraid to show up to work. There's no need to be afraid to go to school. If you know that you are a law-abiding citizen here in the, or just a law-abiding individual here in the city of Chicago who, wants to work and provide for your family, show up to work. The kids need to be educated, and let's take the fear out of it.
Snelling reiterating that immigrants, no matter their status, if they are a victim of crime, can call CPD to report that. They say the officers are under orders not to give any immigration status to the federal government. That is the latest here live at City Hall tonight. Sean Lewis, WGN News.
Got a transport car? Hey, Lewis, your car, right? Hey, to the right over there, that corner.
So it has already been determined that you don't follow the United States Constitution. And maybe that's perhaps because you're not a founding father and your name is not on the document. So perhaps if we show you something that your name is on, maybe you'll follow those rules. We got a rules of order and procedure, City Council, City of Chicago, for 2023 to 2027, with your name on it. However, we sit in here all the time and watch you violate our rights. Right. We sit in here all the time and watch you allow City Council to violate our rights. Now, we're going to talk about this budget, about the strange things that's happening. Because, again, your name was on this executive order of May 2023, this executive order for immigration, migrants, and refugee rights. You caused all this money to go to illegal immigrants, not Harold Washington. You going to be held accountable for it. And we want a forensic audit of the money that was spent on illegal immigration. You all are trying to do everything but that, when in fact, that's where all the money went. So anything that you all pass, it's not genuine, it's not honest, because you're trying to cover up where our money actually went. Now, it's been some strange voting going on. Let's talk about the fact that Taliaferro and Lopez, Sergio Lopez, got extra money. Could it be because Byron Sergio Lopez wrote a letter on my behalf to help with my case, and so did Taliaferro? Could it be that they were told that they could get more votes if they blew my case? Whoa. Now, let's look at Alderman David Moore, who have been in here and listened to me talk about my probate all the time and haven't done anything. Could it be he planning a seminar with Lori and them, while at the same time selling me out? Because he's supposed to be getting a field house for his ward. We got something for you. Fridays, famous Friday, and we got another one. This is Chicago Flip Red. Chicago Red got you too. You got Chicago Red and you got Chicago Flip Red, and both of us getting that. So now, who's gonna be famous Friday? Pull this name real fast. Carlos Ramirez Rosa. Yeah!
Thank you very much for your comments. However, your time has expired. Our next speaker is David Mason.
We have to remember history, because the number one thing that we know for certain is that history always repeats itself. So, Mr. Johnson, I know that you can appreciate with me giving you a history lesson with you being a former social studies teacher from Elgin. Well, you plan on going back to the classroom anyway. That was the whole purpose with you taking a leave of absence, right? Well, besides the mental reason. I'm sorry, I wasn't supposed to say that out loud. But let's go ahead and talk about history repeating itself. Let's talk about taxation. Chicago has a tax for everything: water tax, grocery tax, tourist tax, hotel tax, bag tax, liquor tax, cigarette tax, the highest sales tax in the country by far, parking tax, surcharge of downtown parking, property lease tax, and streaming tax. The only thing that you all don't have a tax for yet is oxygen tax. And the only reason why you don't have a tax for that just yet is because you ain't figured out how to do it yet. But let me not speak too soon, because you probably might actually think it's a good idea and you're going to try to write it down. So let's go ahead and talk about, let's not forget about the good old sugar tax. Y'all remember y'all used to back in 2016 and you go to your favorite grocery store and you buy your favorite 24-pack of pop? Well, you paying more taxes on that pop than what the actual cost of it is. What you didn't know is that your buddy Brandon Johnson voted for that sugar tax. So it's not a surprise that he wants to pour a $40 million line of credit and put the city in even more debt than what we already are with the $1.2 billion deficit. But it's your fault that because you gave half the money to illegals. Also, it's lazy government is what you call it, so let's not forget that we gotta watch these politics. And I was at that Board of Czar meeting, and Tom Homan said out of his mouth that it is illegal to harbor and conceal illegal aliens. So like I told you before, that you ain't gonna blink, well, we ain't gonna flinch either. Now, I'm gonna tell you another thing. All you illegals, you ain't gonna have no Merry Christmas. You're gonna have a Merry Deportation Christmas.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next speaker is the Chicago Conservative.
Let's go, Bashan.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
You spent over $574 million on illegal immigrants here in Chicago, Illinois since 2022. Now, you still feel like you have to harbor these illegals, which is not a good idea. And in my personal opinion, I don't think it's a good idea to challenge Tom Homan on this because he's trying to clean up our cities, Mr. Brandon Johnson. Now, let me just remind everybody here that Brandon Johnson is terrible with the budget. How is this $40 million credit line is going to work exactly? Because the key word is credit. So how much will we be using from this $40 million? And the real question is, how much will we be paying back? Now, you want to sit here, you and J.B. Pritzker want to puff out your chest and fight Tom Homan. We need Tom Homan here in Chicago. We need Donald Trump. And I don't want to see people like Pam Bundy and Kash Patel, haul you up out of here and become prosecuted. I don't want to see that happen. But they will do their job if they have to, Brandon Johnson. Now, we are $1 billion in debt. That's absolutely insane. Kamala Harris, she spent $1 billion on her campaign less than a year, and she's $20 million in debt. So it's looking like Democrats are bad with money. Now, you ignored me for 10 to 15 seconds last time I was speaking, and I really did not appreciate that at all. But I got a Christmas present for you. Let's remind the people of Chicago that Brandon Johnson spent $32,000 in campaign funds on haircuts and makeup. So I got an early Christmas present for you, Brandon Johnson. This is some makeup for you right here. You got some rouge. You got the makeup brush right there so you can save this people some money, for crying out loud. Now, let me tell you people, I'm going to be serious here. We need to start voting different in these cities like New York and Chicago. Stop voting these people in. It's not Democrat versus Republican anymore. It is populist versus establishment. It is the populist versus the establishment. Stop letting them trick you into the race baiting when it comes to Brandon Johnson. Oh, black people need help too. Trump want to hurt black people. What are you talking about? We're legal here. We are legal. Now, I'm trying to be nice about this. And Mr. Brandon Johnson, I do respect you in a little bit of way because you're trying the best that you can. I really want to believe that. But listen, man, you got a 14% approval rating. So the people is looking like they're telling you that you're fired, man. So I'm just humbly asking you, Brandon Johnson, to please come up with something that's reasonable by the end of this year, because I don't want to see a government shutdown, Mr. Brandon Johnson. Please do your job. I don't care if you're black. Chicago needs to get rid of DEI. I don't care if you're black. Can you do the job? Can you do the job, Mr. Brandon Johnson? And it's looking like you can't do the job. So please don't fail us.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next speaker is Michael Young Bay.
This $70 million. $70 million. And not counting the past millions of dollars that this city done approved of this state and the county, etc. $70 million. Y'all won't even put $1 million in one neighborhood. $1 million in one neighborhood. Brandon Mayor Johnson, you say that you for the children, etc., you for the youth, you want to have work programs for the youth, etc. Well, $1 million for these work programs, for these children. See, I'm not going to address nobody in the room no more. I'm going to just address you.
The next speaker is Ms. Jessica Jackson.
Talk to me.
So, Christmas is coming early this year. We're going to check that list when it go up on that wall for voting, and we're going to check it twice. Oh, yeah. And we're going to find out who's been naughty or nice based on how y'all vote. And we're going to start it off with Maria Hatton. Yeah.
Chicago and some communities so angry? Why is all this kind of anti-immigrant sentiment coming up? And I want to explain to folks, it's because if we cared as much about black people and had over the decades as we do about everyone else, we wouldn't be here. But the money from a 2020.
All right. That would be Maria Haddon. Stepping out there, I see you. Don't get sarcastic because we can get jiggy, right? You set up here for that first 51 million talking about how you feel about black people and how you have to have the same energy for black people, and you ain't never stood on this floor talking about money for black people. You get on this floor and talk about black and brown because you somewhere in the middle with it, right? But I'll tell you this, and I'm telling every other black alderman in here today, you vote for the money for these immigrants today, and we coming for them seats. You can believe that. You're going to stop pimping the black people's plight to get brown people, as y'all call it, money. You're going to give us our press conference up there on the 3rd floor, keep talking to the mayor's boy with the clink clink from his past. That's why he got to do what the mayor say do. Him and a lot of other ones in here with these shady pasts. That's why you got to vote the way that you vote. But all of us ain't got shady passes. Some of us free out here, and we can vote how we want to vote, and we coming for those seats. Now, to align yourself with somebody who's obviously a one-term mayor, if he even makes it that far, you better be worrying about your job. You better be worrying about your longevity, because we're going to vote, and we're going to get you out, because you ain't doing right by us. That's what time it is. And for your law person that's next to you, I'm going to need you to check out that federal charge that I got against those public administrators over there for messing with black people's property. It's federal case number 23CV14590. All right? And on that note, if y'all don't give us our money for the black community, know this, we getting ready to file a federal injunction against City Hall for benign neglect to the south side and west side. You got that? Boom.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Jackson.
Like the 7 seas, living life. Let me get it right. Let me give it a minute to get up in it like a beautiful independent woman that's gonna make you wait to smash. Come now, let me count this cash. Come now, let me sip this flash. Pockets fat like shorty ass. Jump in the whip, gotta get this gas. Put that shit in drive. I'm live like ammunition. No permission needed. I proceeded to accelerate. Had days with hella hate, but gotta let that anger migrate. All this shit that's on my plate, that food for thought that can't be bought, but only taught. And on the real, no, I can't get much higher. It's smoking that fire. Ride around the city with my homies and know we know that I can't get much higher. Word to my supplier, light it, break it, roll it, light it, build that fire, ignite it. I can't get much higher. It's smoking that fire. Ride around the city with my homies and know we know that I can't get much higher. Word to my supplier, light it, break it, roll it, light it, build that fire, ignite it. I can't get much higher. Nigga like we smoking all weekend and I roll that smoke when I'm drinking. Tell them open that door but don't peek. And we been having the OG Kush meeting. If we smoking that dope, it's a reason. I some love from the chiefin'. I'ma get high when I wake up and roll me one more before I'm sleeping. Man, I be smoking so good that I be forgetting the past. You don't even come to my house if it ain't wrapped up in a turkey bag. We roll up the urban lab, kick back.
What's going on, guys? Please make sure to click the link in the description box and or pinned post. I also should have, if I remember to, had earlier made a community post with this link. It is a link to a Patreon post, which includes pay-per-view content involving the topic of recent political corruption, mainly at the local and state level, both here in my home state and elsewhere, such as New York City and Baltimore. In this pay-per-view video, I go hard in the paint regarding some names that you guys would be pretty familiar with at this point, even if you don't live there, such as Tiffany Henyard, the so-called self-proclaimed super mayor of suburban Dolton, Illinois, which is a south suburb of Chicago, literally right around the corner from where I grew up and was raised for 21 years of my life. And also the former disgraced DA of Baltimore, the idiot bitch that filed frivolous charges against police officers in the Freddie Gray case, which were later dropped and acquitted. Marilyn Mosby. I discussed that case, as well as a developing case that's causing quite a stir and making headway in New York City, the Big Apple, regarding the NYPD and its very obese chief of departments, who is accused of running a corrupt prostitution ring of fellow officers who happen to be female, working directly out of his office. So it's a mess, but the one thing that all of these corrupt politicians have in common, or these corrupt so-called public servants have in common, is that they are all black and have either direct or indirect connection to the black community, and many of them are black females. I will use this video again, where I go hard in the paint, to make my argument, which you may have heard in the past, as to why I personally believe that the centralized government system that has been a tradition not only here in the United States but elsewhere throughout the world should be permanently replaced with a referendum-based system. So not to give too much away, if you don't know what a referendum is, go look it up in a dictionary. But I honestly, truly believe, and the more I've thought about it and walked down that rabbit hole over the course of the last few years, I truly, honestly believe that a referendum-based system to replace the current centralized government system would resolve a lot of issues that the regular, everyday, average, run-of-the-mill, law-abiding citizen has with the so-called political leaders that are supposed to be representing them, but in most cases usually only wind up representing their own agendas and lining their own pockets. So yeah, check that out. This video is also very relevant to what we're going to discuss tonight, and you will hear me bring up the referendum option or the referendum alternative on several occasions in this video tonight. Again, link in the description box. We discuss among other things, Tiffany Henyard, Marilyn Mosby fraud case, and even the Donald Trump Obama friendly conversation that they had at the funeral or the wake for former President Jimmy Carter that caused quite a stir. So check it out. Anyway, that notwithstanding, so I finally decided, after hearing about this issue for close to a year and a half now, I finally decided to address this issue. And I feel like it's long overdue because, again, Chicagoland is my home city, my home area. It's where I was born. It's where I was raised. It's where I got my first job. Just went through so much. Made my first friends, made my first enemies. And I've kind of been sitting in the clouds, so to speak, as Crystalline Cunterson would say back in the day, and just kind of observing the whole situation. I've made some reference to it in other videos that I've made, but I have not directly addressed the issue. Not because I didn't want to, but just simply because I've been busy with other things. As many of you are aware, between YouTube's extreme censorship last year and everything else that I went through, including having to temporarily switch professions, I just did not upload as much content, so I didn't get to a lot of things. I'm trying to rebound this year, so we're going to see what we can get done. But this illegal immigration issue and the stir that it has caused, not only in the state of Illinois, but throughout a lot of these Midwestern and Far East Coast states and cities like New York and Washington, D.C., it really is starting to show the true colors for those of us who had not been seen before as black people. Those that were not privy to the true agendas of the Democratic Party, they are now seeing with new eyes and hearing with new ears what they had been so blind and so deaf to before. And that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. People like me, what I call the minority within the minority, I have seen this shit. If you've followed me, since my original tenure as Brian Solange all the way back in 2014, 11 years ago, I've been talking about shit like this and the problems with liberal policies and, democratic rule over predominantly black communities and areas where black people have a predominance of, the demographics for well over a decade now. I've been talking about this. This is nothing new to me, okay? But I think this illegal immigration issue is really starting to bring to the forefront to black people, again, that had not been seeing before and not been hearing before, the true light of evil and corruption and carelessness and uselessness and disregard and blatant disrespect of the people who represent this party, that more than 90% of black people over the course of the last 50 years since the Kennedy administration have foolishly gone out at the local, state, and federal level and just mindlessly voted for simply because the letter of the party essentially started with a D instead of an R. Okay? They're starting to see the true colors of this party. And, it's kind of bittersweet for a person like me that's so highly intelligent and highly intuitive to the point where I can see several moves ahead, and I can, I can understand and interpret things that it takes other people, years, even light years, to be able to understand and interpret. On the one hand, I want to say that seeing those black people, many of them older black people in their late 40s and 50s, stand up and confront this coward, this moron of a mayor in Brandon Johnson, who had to be so much more incredibly worse than his predecessor in Lori Lightfoot, over, trying to boost funding through raising taxes for illegal migrants into the city of Chicago. I want to say that it the way these people articulated themselves, some of them, the way they, blatantly confronted him, I want to say that it brings me some pride and some joy to know that more black people, especially at the local level, are starting to wake up and realize something that not only myself, but Akwesi, because, he's from New York, but he was actually one of the first people that I ever heard, bring this whole issue up with the controversy that was being stirred up in Chicago. He's been talking about this for well over a year and a half. But, this is something that me, Akwesi, and David Carroll, and others have been trying to tell these idiots for years. So it's kind of bittersweet, Another part of me says that just like in the case of, what's going on in the suburb of Chicago that's raising so much controversy with the Tiffany Henyard case, that some of these very people, for most of their lives, and you can tell some of them have more past than future, they have been lifetime Democrats. In fact, some of them are arguing against and facing off against the very person that they helped put in office by casting a ballot. And it's sad that it had to take the Democrats directly, politically spitting in the face of their most loyal constituents, their most loyal supporters, the black community, by not only bringing in these illegal immigrants, but housing them not only in black areas, but using facilities, renovating abandoned buildings, and using and withdrawing funding that was intended for but never used for the development of black areas, to now fund this mass operation to give illegal immigrants who weren't born here, don't have a legal status here, don't pay taxes here, the benefits that black people who have been born, raised, and lived here their entire fucking lives and their families still don't have on the south and west sides of Chicago. This is a direct spit in the face. This is like somebody going to a Jewish neighborhood like Skokie in north suburban Chicago and reappropriating funds that were originally intended for, the Anti-Defamation League and, to fund Jewish schools and synagogues, and reappropriating it to fund pro-Palestinian groups in the Middle East. And doing it right in front of the Jews' faces that live in Skokie. It's not gonna fucking happen. It's not gonna fucking happen. Okay? It's not gonna happen. So the question is, and now a lot of the black people are waking up to the in Chicago, they're waking up and they're asking the question that we've been trying to warn them about for years. Why do these Democrats, which are now currently led by Brandon Johnson and J.D. Bitchker, one of the worst, possibly the worst. I can't say he's the worst governor, because we had 2 governors go to prison for corruption. I think George Ryan and Rod Blagojevich. Okay, but he is one of the worst governors in the state of Illinois fucking history. This dude is a fat fucking moron. Okay? But the question is, how the fuck does a party that relies on minority votes of black people, of primarily black people, the black vote, how does this party become so blatantly oblivious to the needs of its black constituents that vote for it in the 90th percentile more than any other group votes for anyone in this country? How do they get it in their heads that it is more important to take care of people who are not even residents of the city of Chicago? They are not even citizens of the United States. And then to take these people and blatantly spit in the face of their black constituents by housing them in black communities and giving them facilities and developing abandoned buildings in these communities that have been undeveloped and abandoned and left raggedy for decades, and giving them funding that the aldermen for a lot of these districts in Chicago have been asking for neighborhood development and safety and education programs for years. How do you explain that? How do you explain it? And so finally you have a lot of these niggas, including a lot of these dumb niggas, that are starting to smarten up and finally get it. It took this. And it's so sad. It's so pathetic. Because there were so many warning signs and obvious blatant signs that were in the fucking face of black people years, decades before this, with the policies that have been enacted, not the least of which were policies used to incentivize single black motherhood and systematically destroy the black family unit. Something that we have talked about for years and will talk about for years to come. It was literally the political, economic, socio-economic version of dropping the atomic bomb on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, Japan, when that happened, starting under the Lyndon Baines Johnson administration and the so-called war on poverty. It was preposterous and disastrous. That alone should have taught black people what the fuck was going on. But it took this. These motherfuckers are gonna take these motherfuckers, drop them in your neighborhood, undocumented. There's no criminal background check on these people. These people are gonna be existing, running around, hanging around your children, coming and going from school. And then they're gonna give you funding that you're paying for through your tax dollars to people who aren't even from here and leave you with nothing, even though you've been here, born here as a legal citizen your whole fucking life. Now that leaves two questions. Number one, what is their agenda? Are they just doing this out of the kindness of their hearts? Or is there something more sinister at play here? Is there a method to their madness? Meaning the Democrats? Or are they just doing this because they just so believe in this mythology of welcome everyone with open arms? Because the United States is not the only place that is dealing with these mass migration issues. Okay? There's a huge pushback in Western Europe over this shit, and it's giving rise to a lot of white nationalism in places like Norway, Denmark, not so much France, but Great Britain, Germany, Sweden. People all around the world are getting tired, sick and tired of these lip-tart fucking policies of these government asswipes that are putting other people who don't even live and aren't from there and their interests and their needs over the safety, sovereignty, and needs and wants of the people that they're supposed to be protecting and representing. Which, once again, is why I thoroughly believe that centralized government needs to be done away with and replaced with a referendum-based system. But see, that'll never happen. Because most of y'all don't have the balls or the brains to make it happen. You want to get rid of these government motherfuckers? You don't take up arms against them. I told you. They got too much for that. You financially bleed them by just not paying them. It's that simple. A mass tax strike would bring about the end of all centralized government. They only get the power that you give them. You people, I'm listening to these people come up to the podium one at a time and confront Brandon Johnson like some pastor giving a fiery sermon in a church, and I'm hearing people in the background oohing and ahhing, yan and yin, agreeing with what they're saying, clapping, applauding. Yeah, it sounds real good. Telling them what the problem is, confronting them, calling them out, but it amounts to nothing in the end. This is why even that police ambusher, Gavin Long, even he said, as crazy as he was, even he said that there's only two things these motherfuckers understand. And that's blood and money. If you're not taking one from them, you can do all the demonstrating and all the trash talking and all the yelling and all the screaming that you want. It amounts to nothing. Now, we don't condone violence because violence is a two-way street. And violence, as history has shown, usually amounts to nothing but retaliatory attacks. A bunch of innocent people get killed up, and in the end, you've accomplished nothing. Okay? At the end of World War II, who actually won? They say the Allies, but Western Europe was fucking fucked. How many millions of people lost their lives? I tell you who won World War II. Nobody. Nobody won. So violence is not the answer. So that only leaves one other option. But most people are not intelligent enough to do this. On either side of the aisle. You even look at those idiots. You even look at those idiots that attacked the Capitol. Now, they could go through these rednecks, these peckerwoods. They went through all of that organization on social media, all this shit, to occupy one government building for a few hours. It wasn't like they were going to stay there for life. They got to go home eventually. All that's going to happen is the SWAT team going to come, they going to pump tear gas in the building and send y'all scurrying like cockroaches. What are you doing? If you kill a government official, you're going to get life or the death penalty. The FBI going to track your ass down, don't matter how many years it takes. So what are you accomplishing? All that effort could have been spent in finding ways to revise and convert the system that you don't like, that you think is unfair, that you think cheated you, from a centralized government system into a referendum-based system where every individual citizen has the right and the duty to self-manage their own community at the local, state, and nationwide level. Void of these political frauds, these individuals that have been lying and deceiving you since the days of Rome. Not just here, but around the world. I got a question. Why? You know, I just think differently from everybody else. Why? I need somebody to answer this question. Somebody, you know, maybe you have a degree in psychology or psychiatry. But, you know, I get in these running arguments a lot of the times, even with my family members, about the idea of doing what somebody else tells me to do because they're older or they think they're wiser or because they think they need something. Listen, there have come times when I've needed help, when I've needed advice, you know, and I took it. But I have never, and y'all that listen to me should know this about this one thing about me, okay? Everybody that has ever fucked with me, okay? From the feds to ex-girlfriends to co-workers to former bosses to family members, everybody knows this about Brian motherfucking Solange at this point. I have never in my life been one to follow the leader, quote unquote. I've never been one to want to join anyone's team. I've never been one to want to do what I see everybody else doing. I have always had that lone wolf, go the opposite direction that the herd is going mentality. So it's always seemed odd to me. It's always seemed foreign to me. You know, like somebody speaking to me in Chinese. I don't understand that shit, motherfucker. I speak white supremacy. I speak English, nigga. I don't speak Asian supremacy. I don't know that shit. It's always seemed foreign to me. Why do so many of you motherfuckers, white, black, Republican, Democrat, why do you feel like you need to elect someone, another human being, some fucking motherfucker that sits on a toilet and has shit coming out they funky ass just like you? They bleed, they piss, they fuck up, they make mistakes. They're just as human as you. Why do you motherfuckers feel like y'all need somebody to organize and somebody to lead and somebody to govern you? Why do so many human beings have this follower mindset where they need somebody out ahead of them telling them what to do? Does it make you feel safe? Huh? Do you really have to? The only way you feel fucking alive is if someone's pointing in a direction and saying follow the leader. I've always had a coyote mindset. I say, lone wolf is a term that they use to demonize. I've tried to stray away from that, but I still use it. I really have more of a coyote mindset because coyotes don't travel in packs, typically. Wolves travel in packs. I don't have that wolf pack mentality, okay? I go off and I do my own shit. I don't give a fuck about these holidays. I've never voted, okay? I cut the dating game out of my life a long time ago. I don't need these bitches. I don't need anything. Except when I need it, and when I need it, I just go out and get it. If it were up to me, as I've said before, I'd have my own fucking island with barbed wire around the fucking island and machine gun posts that might be automated or manned by guards. The only people on that island other than me on a regular basis would be staff or contractors coming to bring me shit. Okay? I'm only here because I can't afford not to be. I despise most of you motherfuckers, let alone some rat-tat fucking bullshit cock-a-doodle-doo bumfuck random ass motherfucker that I ain't never met a day in my life gonna come and give me some fake ass, false ass promise while standing on a fucking soapbox or standing on a podium reading from a teleprompter talking about what they gonna do to make my life or my area better. And I'm supposed to be stupid enough and gullible enough to believe that just because they're of a certain political party? Are you motherfuckers retarded? Even these people wearing these fucking Trump hats. Trump is a fucking billionaire. Now, he may have a certain idea about America that he wants to impose, but that don't mean that he's gonna directly make your fucking life better. This dude is rich whether he's president or not. You can't take a silver spoon motherfucker that was brought into this world with damn near a fucking bar of gold shoved up their ass. You can't take somebody like them and expect them to understand the plight of poor and middle class people. I don't give a fuck what they say. Okay? That's why I don't consider myself, I consider myself an independent. I consider myself a Marlboro man. I follow my own agenda. Okay? And I notice how they make it hard for you to live a life. You know, they try to demonize people like myself that try to live a life of solitude outside of the system, outside of the matrix. Okay? And try to teach other people how to live outside of this falsehood of diversity and community, because they need you together. They need you to keep believing the fucking lie that they give a fuck about you, that they're gonna take care of you. They need you to do that, because the more of you that are stupid enough to be brainwashed to believe these absolute fucking lies, the more of them have a job and the more powerful they get. Riddle me this. Regardless, here or the rest of the world, Labor Party, Democrat Party, Workers Party, Nazi Party, Republican Party, whatever, Likud Party, no, whatever party, okay? Whatever team you pick, motherfucker. Riddle me this. I want you to name one fucking time in human fucking history that you know of. Name one fucking time where there has ever been any type of government organization at the local, state, or nationwide level that has done more benefit for the people that they were supposed to be representing than detriment. Name one fucking time. One fucking time. When the few have benefited the many more than they've detrimented the many. When the few have served the many more than they served themselves. Name one fucking time. You can't do it, motherfucker. That's right. You can't. Because it ain't never happened. Because essentially what you're doing is you're asking. And nigga, this is just for the motherfuckers that ain't directly corrupt. This is just for the ones that are quote unquote doing their job, per se. Okay? And following the quote unquote rules. Okay? And doing everything by the book. You cannot ask individual human beings that have the same needs, wants, lusts, and desires, and greed that you have in your and hate and good, bad, and ugly that you have in your heart, in your mind, to magically grow this superhuman ability to do something that you and most of the people that you know can't even do themselves, which is give more of a shit about others than they give a shit about themselves. It ain't gonna happen. Okay? Mother Teresa's only come around every once in a blue moon. People like that are truly, honestly, in the most literal sense, 1 in a million. Wake up! Wake up! Everybody in this world is out to get for self. Every once in a while, you will have someone who will perform a good deed. They'll pass a policy or some, emergency ruling, some executive order that will appear to help people in their time of need. But most of the fucking time, when people are looking, and sometimes when they're not looking, most of the time when they're not looking, they're going to be lining their own pockets. They're going to be cutting back deals for themselves and their cronies. Okay? Sometimes they're going to get caught. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're going to argue that what they're doing is completely legal. But no time are you going to find any of these motherfuckers, from these people that run these tech companies and corporations to these people that run these governments, the combined assembly of what we call the powers that be, the powers that are, and the powers that were. Never will you find another human being in that position of power that is going to do something for you more than you can do for yourself. So stop fucking kidding yourself, Republican or Democrat, especially Democrat. It ain't gonna fucking happen. Wake the fuck up now. Now. So back on these Democrat motherfuckers. The question is, because see, what I was going to say before I kind of strayed off on, just the whole political circus in general. What I was going to say was, I noticed something specific that a lot of people don't notice. When you see these, mass demonstrations outside of the White House or outside of the Capitol building, or, you see these speak freely sessions, before some meeting at a village hall, or at City Hall, where they allow people to come in from off the street and have 2 or 3 minutes where they can yell and shout at the people in front of the board. And you notice how, calm those people are being, like Brandon Johnson, he's standing up there, taking all that verbal abuse, right? They're all calm, and their demeanor is so, so calm and straightforward. They're not acting like that because they're so professional and they're so high up and above it, and turn the other cheek and absorb it. You know why they're acting like that? Because of what happens when that buzzer sounds and the dude says, okay, you've had your 3 minutes, now it's time for somebody else to talk. They know that no matter what you say, it's not going to have any effect on them. Why do you really think you have the freedom of speech and the freedom of assembly? because that's not going to hurt these people in government. That's not going to affect them. So they allow you to do that. The right to vote. Okay? They give you these menial little rights. And you dumb motherfuckers, you feel so important. Oh, well, I told Brandon Johnson off. Yeah, I told him off in front of everybody. I cussed his ass out. I cussed Tiffany Henyard out. She another one. Let people say anything. See, no, that don't have no effect on them. That's not real power. They know, see, that's what a lot of people, including a lot of white people, a lot of people don't understand this, okay? And you heard me mention this in the past. The main problem with a majority of the masses is that they don't understand how power works. If they understood how power works, they would not waste their time going to any of these fucking village hall meetings and yelling and shouting into the mic, holding up billboard signs and having these meaningless demonstrations. They don't give a fuck about that. If you cannot reach out and touch them, if you are not drying up their bank accounts, if you are not paying them through tax dollars, they don't give a fuck about none of that shit because it don't faze them. You know what you do? Let me explain something to y'all. You know what you do when you stand in a crowd and you demonstrate loudly outside the White House or outside of, the state capitol or whatever the fuck for whatever the fuck cause? You know what you do when you go to a local or state government meeting and take part in the open mic session where you get to yell and shout at the politician? You know what you are to them? I'll tell you exactly what you are to them. What you are to them is like the lowly scum telemarketer that calls your fucking phone trying to sell you bullshit. Or the bill collector, the debt collector that calls your phone or sends you something in the mail. They have no real power. All they can do is try to harass you verbally or in some written mail. Most of them not gonna sue you. They have no real power. All they can do is keep bugging you, hoping that you're sociable enough to talk to them and let them pressure you into paying or buying something. You can shut the door in their face. You can hang up. You can laugh at them. You can cuss them out. You can take that letter, ball it up, throw it in the trash. I personally have probably been contacted by bill collectors and telemarketers over 20,000 times in my lifetime. And you know what I feel about it? Nothing. You can't get me worked up over no phone call because most of the time I'm not gonna pick it up if I don't recognize the number. Send me a letter in the mail talking about I owe this, and that. Whether I do or don't, motherfucker, you ain't the IRS. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Huh? I'm not scared of you because you have no real power. You're of no real consequence to me, bitch. You can't put me in handcuffs. You can't shoot me. What you gonna do? That's what you stupid motherfuckers are. When y'all out there demonstrating to these asshats, you mean nothing to them because you're not affecting them. Don't you get it? Stop being a fucking anthead. If you're not going to take the steps to organize and carry out a plan that's going to really direct these motherfuckers and hit them where it hurts, financially, or, socioeconomically, or otherwise in a non-violent manner, you're wasting your fucking time. You are wasting your motherfucking time. Now, that was one of the questions. Why the fuck do you motherfuckers keep believing in the system that has not worked for your ass since Adam and Eve? It has not worked for your ass since Adam and Steve. It has not worked for your ass since before this so-called God that these Christians believe created the moon and the sun, when he realized that Earth couldn't spin around and keep in regular formation on its own. It's never worked. Never. The other question is, okay, so if we know that these motherfuckers don't give a fuck. Which they obviously don't. What is the agenda of the Democrats? Now, we're just going to focus on them because the Republicans have their own issues, okay? But what? Why are they so dead set on putting illegal immigrants over U.S. citizens, and more specifically over black U.S. citizens, to the point where you have lifetime Democrats in the city of Chicago threatening or already voting Republican and cussing out the mayor that many of them elected into office? What is their agenda? Is there a method to their madness, or are they just doing this out of the kindness of their little heart over some misplaced, belief that, America is a land of migrants, when it's really a land that was stolen by colonial white supremacy from the natives that first lived here, but that's a subject for another video. Well, yes, to answer your question, if you're wondering that, there is definitely, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, a method to their fucking madness. And if you ask, what is that method? What is their motive? The motive to their madness is what we really should mention. What is the motive to their madness? You need to look no further. Although this does have a history that goes back much further than this. But you needn't look no further than last year's general election at the federal level, where, as we know, the Democrats suffered one of the worst, if not the worst, loss in American history. They got fucking KO'd in the first round. Kamala Harris got wiped. She lost in a landslide. And they lost the Senate and the House of Representatives by a lot. The Republicans now have total, complete control. But why is that? Well, there's several factors. One, people did not appreciate a lot of the policies that were implemented under the Biden administration, not the least of which was during the COVID scamdemic, the implementation of vaccine mandates where they were threatening people's jobs, telling people they couldn't go in certain places if they didn't have the mark of the beast, in paperwork on them, saying that they got some fucking fake scene put in their fucking arm. Inflation, which was a really big thing, and is a big thing now, where groceries are high as living fuck. Last time I got a bag of grapes, it was like $11 for a bag of red grapes that wasn't even 3 fucking pounds. Okay? People are hurting in the pocketbooks, and so they're going to take their frustration out on whatever ruling party is in the White House and control, has the majority of rule over government at the time. But the other reason why they lost is because, as you saw in the introduction, a lot more black people, though admittedly it's nowhere near as many as it should be, okay? Because still the override majority of dumbass niggas, male and female, still vote Democrat. But more and more black people, especially more and more black men, are starting to wake up to the trickery, the treachery, and the downright disrespect of the Democratic Party and these liberal policies that they're now starting to realize. They're now starting to come to the painful realization. Just like a man, once he realizes that he has a cheating whore for a wife, These motherfuckers don't give a fuck about us. We vote for them every single year, every single political term, every single decade, and they do absolutely nothing for us. Chicago's west and south sides are just as fucked up now as they were back in the 1980s during the crack and the AIDS epidemics. You can barely tell the difference, except the type of cars that people drive and the clothes that they wear. Different styles. As a matter of fact, styles and culture changes faster than the political climate and the socioeconomic situation. You notice that? So, one of the many reasons why they got wiped at last year's election is because not as many black people are coming out to vote for these assholes. Okay? And they rely on that minority vote. They rely on any vote that is not directly white. The young vote, the black vote, the gay vote. Okay? They need those votes to remain in power or to gain power. Kamala Harris could not. Kamala Harris was a fucking goofy ass bimbo that sucked and fucked her way to the top to become California's Attorney General. Nobody liked her in the first place when she originally ran in 2020, and she had to drop out of the primary. They tried to, slip her in behind Biden as his vice president, hoping he would die with his old ass in office. That didn't happen. So when it was obvious that he wasn't going to have the support to win re-election, they tried to, boost her up. It didn't work. Okay? And so now they have a scenario where they've completely lost power, they've completely lost control, but it's their own fault. But the question is, how does that tie in to this gross, unpatriotic, or whatever you want to call it, obsession with bringing and allowing illegal immigrants to flood into this country unchecked and give them funding of taxpayer money that is intended to provide services, safety, and security to those who are American citizens. Well, going back to the election and going back to the fact that there's slowly but surely every political season, especially since Hillary Clinton got mopped in the 2016 election, from that point forward, the Democrats have been steadily losing support from their base, which are minority populations in major urban centers like Chicago. And when I say minority, 90% of what we mean are not Hispanics, but black folks. So the Democrats have launched this secretive plan that has actually been going on for about 20 years now. But it's just now starting to come to the forefront, and Donald Trump and friends are making sure that they, take every opportunity to expose this agenda. Basically, the Democrats realize that they're going to need replacements. That's right. They are looking to replace your black ass. See, it used to be back in the day when the Democrats down south had your ass in chains. They were getting free labor out of you, picking that cotton and, picking, those sugar canes and that wheat or whatever was in that field. It used to be back in those days, they were getting free labor in exchange for giving you free housing, free hand-me-down second-rate food, okay? Free second-rate health care, false religion, and whatnot. But then, at the end of the Civil War, when Abraham Lincoln and friends said, you can't have slaves no more, Okay? Then they tried to switch up and reenact slavery through a different method called sharecropping, which was just another form of slavery. When that ended, they realized, okay, so then we got to figure out a way to maintain our way of life. So under the Kennedy administration, they jumped ship. And now all of a sudden, they're black people's friends. So now, instead of getting free labor out your ass for free housing, free food, free medical care, now they want free votes out of your ass in exchange for all these welfare programs and policies. See, as David Carroll would say, the play run, the gameplay of the Democrats has never really changed. Some of their agendas have, but the gameplay has never really changed. They front you with this falsehood of freedom, and in exchange, they derive from you something that's free, that's going to actually serve to benefit and align with their agendas and get more benefit out of it than you could ever dream of getting in a lifetime for what they're giving you in exchange. That's how it works, see. But now, black people are no longer in slave chains. They can't force us to do anything, right? They can't force us to vote for them, right? And so now they're starting to see that there's a real threat here. Akwesi had mentioned this, but I think he should have maybe elaborated on it a little bit more when he said that, you know, the Democrats may not see power, especially in the White House, for another 20 years. Now, at first, when he said that, I thought maybe he was reaching a little bit until I thought about it. And I said, you know, that may be reaching only if Donald Trump does not do what he has promised to do, which is lower inflation, get these immigrants, these illegal immigrants, the fuck up out of here, okay? Then, yeah, it might continue to be a toss-up, a back and forth between parties every, 4 years. But if he implements these agendas that he has promised, yeah, the Democrats will, they'll probably, get a majority in the House of Representatives or the Senate. But it is perfectly feasible that they may not see the White House again for a decade or more. That is feasible. If the Republicans can show a consistent pattern of making good on their promises and doing what they said they were going to do, which is keeping illegal immigration down and keeping inflation down, okay? And that remains to be seen. The Democrats could lose power for a generation. And that has to be very frightening, especially for a group that has so much financial pull from Hollywood to Washington to even overseas. They have so much backing, but somehow they just cannot get rid of this motherfucker called Trump. And now he has re-energized the Republican Party into something that nobody's ever really seen before with the Republican Party. And early on in his administration, he is doing many of the things that he promised to do. Even if he fails, if he makes a valid effort and has the public seeing him make the valid effort, and I'm no fan of Trump. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. Again, I'm an independent. But I see things for what they are, and I call them that way. If he consistently keeps doing what he told the American people he was going to do, and not just feed them lies like a Brandon Johnson or one of these other jackleg fucking politicians do, the Democrats could be in very real trouble as far as being able to regain power at the highest level. And they know that. So they feel that their only viable option is to find a great replacement. You heard of the Great White Hope? They need a great replacement for minorities, black people, who are already, with this illegal and legal migration being overrun by Latinos anyway. They see Latinos as their next great hope, but they realize that there's not enough Latinos over here that are loyally Democrat. Okay? Because what a lot of people don't know is that a lot of Latinos down south vote Republican. Okay? Or they just don't vote at all. There's not enough of a Latino base for the Democratic Party like there is with the black vote, for them to have a foothold in the Latino American community. So they need Latin immigrants coming over here, since they make up the bulk of those who migrate over here legally and illegally these days. They need them to come and fill the gaps that are slowly but steadily increasing for the Democratic Party. They need them to plug those holes. You know how in the Civil War, they send lines, send a battalion, a combat battalion, into the battlefield, and they walk side by side in a line, and a cannon shell would come, wipe a hole in the line by wiping out a few dozen men, and the sergeant would yell, to the men in the line behind him to come up and plug that hole in the front line. That's what the Democrats are trying to do. They're trying to plug that hole. They're trying to plug that leak, because they see their tank is emptying out, and pretty soon they ain't gonna have shit. They're gonna have an empty tank. Okay? This also explains why they're trying to give illegal immigrants rights of legal citizens, including the right to vote, the right to have housing. They're trying to convert people who aren't supposed to be here. They're trying to convert them into the next generation of voters, of loyal voters, that are going to help them regain and maintain power in the generations to come, because they see that black people are becoming less and less reliable and more unpredictable. When you saw at those city hall meetings, okay, those weren't a majority white people, angry Northsiders that were yelling at Brandon Johnson. Those were black people, and older black people at that. Some of them motherfuckers were from the We Shall Overcome civil rights generation. Some of them motherfuckers were marching with Martin Luther King. They're getting sick of this shit, and they're seeing it for what it is. But what a lot of them don't understand is the motive to the madness. Yes, they are looking to replace you. They are looking to replace you, because you're becoming more and more unpredictable, which is a good thing, and you're becoming less and less dependable to them. They're having less and less control over you. The get your booty to the poll, showing stripper whores, in a political commercial, telling black men to go out and vote, showing them a bunch of ghetto gaggers. That's not working anymore the way it used to. Some politician like Bill Clinton playing the saxophone, or Kamala Harris talking about she'll fix you collard greens and bacon and all this stupid shit. That's not working anymore. Claiming they'll legalize marijuana, that's not working anymore. They need something else. They need that pick-me-up. And the illegal immigrant who's the illegal today, they see that if they can get into a position where they're unchallenged by Republicans in Congress, they can, if they get what the Republicans have right now, they can convert these millions of illegal immigrants into legal voters. And the hope is that these people will be so grateful because of these democratic policies to allow them over here unchecked, that they will get involved in the American political system and become just as loyal, if not more loyal, to the Democratic Party as black people once were. Because they're losing steam with us, especially black men. And again, that's a good thing. But anyway, I just thought that I would give you guys a heads up of what the fuck is really going on in this country. I hope your eyes are open and your brain is awake. Many more of you are coming awake. You're waking up from your slumber, and that's a good thing. But there's still too many of us, including those within my family, that are full on asleep and hibernating, completely oblivious, or just denying the truth of what the fuck is really going on out here. Nonetheless, in either way, thank you so much for listening. Again, remember to click the link, and talk to you later, guys.
Magazine, shoot from the hip and reload the magazine. I wish I could just go on forever, ever and ever. But this rhyme, ill as it is divine, gonna be cut short today cause I'm out of studio time. Only thought I was recording these horns and not no rhyme. What can I say? Inspiration hits at any time. So I guess I'll have to conclude all my thoughts another time.